What if some of the words you have been praying are quietly working against the very answers you are asking God for? Not because God is unwilling to respond, but because the posture behind certain words keeps you stuck in doubt, fear, or distance. This is not about saying the perfect prayer. God is not looking for polished language. He is looking for alignment, honesty, and faith. But there are certain patterns in how people pray that reveal a deeper misunderstanding, and those patterns can limit how you experience God. Today, we are going to uncover 7 words you must be careful with in prayer, and more importantly, what to say instead. The first phrase sounds humble, but it often hides uncertainty. If you can. We see this in Mark 9:22-23, when a father brought his possessed son to Jesus and said, "If you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." Jesus responded, "If you can, everything is possible for one who believes." The issue was not Jesus' ability, it was the man's doubt. The emotional weight of that moment is important. This was a desperate father. He had likely tried everything. His words reflected disappointment and uncertainty, yet Jesus redirected him, not with condemnation but with truth. The lesson is clear. Faith does not question God's ability, it trusts it. Instead of praying, "God, if you can fix this," shift to, "God, I know you are able. Help my unbelief and strengthen my faith." Even the father in verse 24 cried out, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." That honesty opened the door for a miracle. Think about your own prayers. Are there moments where you subtly question what God can do? That awareness alone can begin to change how you pray. Now consider another phrase that sounds spiritual, but often reflects distance. God, are you even there? We find a similar emotional tension in Psalm 13:1, where David cries, "How long, Lord? Will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" David was not pretending. He expressed real pain and confusion. But notice what happens as the psalm continues. By verse 5 he says, "But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation." David did not stay in doubt. He moved into trust. The lesson here is not to suppress your feelings, but to guide them. Instead of ending your prayer in questioning God's presence, anchor it in truth. Say, "God, even when I do not feel you, I know you are with me." Because Scripture reminds us in Hebrews 13:5, "Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." Now let us look at a third phrase that many people pray without realizing its weight. "I cannot handle this." On the surface, it sounds honest, and in many ways it is. But if it becomes your final statement, it places the burden entirely on your own strength. In 2 Corinthians 12:8-9, Paul speaks about a struggle he faced, something he called a thorn in the flesh. He pleaded with the Lord 3 times to take it away. But God responded, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Paul's conclusion was powerful. "Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." The shift here is critical. Instead of focusing on what he could not handle, Paul focused on what God could sustain. So instead of saying, "I cannot handle this," try, "God, this is heavy, but I trust your strength will carry me through." Now consider a fourth phrase that often comes from frustration. Why is this happening to me? We see this question reflected in the story of Job. In Job 3, after losing everything, Job expressed deep anguish and confusion. He questioned his situation, his suffering, and even his existence. But as the story unfolds, something changes. In Job 38, God responds, not by explaining everything, but by revealing his power, wisdom, and perspective. By the end, in Job 42:5, Job says, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." The lesson is not that questions are wrong. It is that dwelling only on why can keep you stuck. Instead, shift the question to, "God, what are you teaching me in this?" That shift opens your heart to growth instead of confusion. Now think about a fifth phrase, one that sounds patient but can hide passivity. I will just wait and see. Waiting on God is biblical, but passive waiting without faith or action is not. In Matthew 14:28-29, Peter stepped out of the boat to walk on water toward Jesus. He did not wait to see if it was possible. He responded in faith. The lesson here is that waiting on God often involves movement, obedience, and trust. So instead of saying, I will just wait and see, pray, God, show me what step to take and give me the courage to move. Now let us consider a sixth phrase that can quietly limit your expectations. Maybe this is all there is. This mindset can settle into your prayers when life feels repetitive or stagnant. But in Ephesians 3:20, we are reminded that God is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. The story of Joseph reminds us of this. From prison to palace, his life shows that God's plan often exceeds what we can see in the moment. So instead of settling, shift your prayer to, God, open my eyes to what you are doing beyond what I can see. Finally, the seventh phrase, one that seems humble, but can sometimes limit boldness. I do not deserve this. It is true that we do not earn God's grace, but we are invited to receive it. In Hebrews 4:16 it says, let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. The invitation is not based on worthiness, it is based on relationship. So instead of shrinking back, pray, God, thank you for your grace. I receive what you have for me. Now take a moment to reflect. Which of these phrases have you been using without realizing it? This is not about guilt. It is about awareness and growth. You can even share which one stood out to you in the comments, because your reflection might help someone else recognize the same pattern. Prayer is not about perfect words. It is about alignment with truth. When your words shift, your perspective shifts. And when your perspective shifts, your experience of God begins to change. As you move forward, listen to your own prayers, not with judgment but with intention. Adjust where needed. Align your words with faith, trust, and truth. Because sometimes, the breakthrough you are waiting for is not blocked by silence, but by misalignment. Take time to reflect on this. Share it with someone who needs clarity in their prayer life, and continue with the next video in this series where we explore how to pray with authority and confidence. Because the words you choose shape the faith you live. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. God bless you.